I swear, if she wasn't my wife, I'd call the cops. I muttered under my breath, staring at the shattered mug on the floor. Behind me, silence. I thought I was alone. Then I heard her voice. "I'm not your property," she said. Quiet. Almost. Practiced. I turned around. She was standing at the doorway, arms crossed, eyes colder than the Ohio winter pouring through the cracked window. I didn't blink. "Then this house isn't your property either," I said. "You're free." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She stood there, silent, still, while the ceiling fan above us creaked like it was waiting for something too. I walked right past her, down the stairs, into the garage. I didn't even put on a coat. It was 2:47 a.m. By 3:10, I had drained half a tank of gas and was parked outside a 24-hour laundromat with no memory of how I got there. I sat in the car and tried to breathe. My hands were still shaking, not from the cold, but from everything that hadn't been said. From everything I knew but refused to believe. I reached for my phone. One notification. Not from her. It was a screenshot from a friend. No text. Just an image. Her. Sitting on someone's lap. In my hoodie. At a restaurant I introduced her to. Laughing. That photo was time-stamped 3 nights ago. That night she told me she was staying at her sister's because I needed space. I laughed. Out loud. A cracked, broken kind of laugh. The kind you only hear in hospitals or outside courthouses. But I still hadn't hit bottom. That would come in exactly 7 hours, when she returned home with him, and walked through the front door like nothing happened. The front door creaked open at 10:38 a.m. like it was mocking me. I was in the kitchen, sitting on the floor, eating leftover pancakes cold out of the Tupperware because I didn't trust myself with a stove anymore. Not after last night. Not with how my hands kept shaking. I heard 2 sets of footsteps. One was hers. Heels she only wore to impress, not for comfort. Click, 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 confident and sharp, like nothing had happened. Like we didn't exchange the most honest words of our marriage 7 hours ago. The second set was heavier. Slower. Unfamiliar. I didn't move. Just chewed. They didn't expect me to be there. That much was obvious. I heard her gasp, followed by a deep, low mutter from the stranger like he was trying to whisper an excuse before one was needed. I stood up slowly and turned toward them. There she was. Callie. Wearing a jacket I'd never seen before and makeup she didn't wear for me anymore. And next to her was a man who looked like every bad decision a woman could make when she's trying to hurt someone. Designer belt. Too much cologne. Hair that screamed, midlife crisis, but make it rich. He was taller than me. Fitter. The kind of fit that's bought, not earned. You know the type. He stuck out his hand. "Hey man, I'm Seth." "Hey man." My wife brought another man home. Our home. And he introduced himself like we were at a barbecue. I didn't shake his hand. I didn't blink. I just said, "Don't step past the tile." He looked down, confused. The tile? The kitchen had gray ceramic tile that stopped right where the hardwood floor began. It was where I'd drawn the line last night, mentally. That was my boundary now. Pathetic? Maybe. But when you've lost control of everything else, sometimes you claim the floor beneath your feet. Callie rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Heath, you're being dramatic." She actually said that. Dramatic. Like I was performing. Like her bringing a man into our house. A man who wasn't her brother, her boss, or her therapist. Was somehow normal, and I was the one making a scene by standing in my own kitchen with syrup on my shirt and betrayal in my chest. Then she said something that made me dizzy. "He's just here to get some stuff. Mine." Seth nodded like that made sense. Like that line had worked before. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insulting how badly they underestimated me. So I walked over to the hallway closet, opened it, pulled out the duffel bag I'd packed just in case my worst suspicions were confirmed. Not her stuff. Mine. I dropped it on the hardwood floor in front of Seth. The bag burst open. Inside, photos, letters, a folded flannel shirt, the first Christmas ornament we bought together, a concert ticket from 2016, things she thought I'd forgotten, things I'd hidden not to remember her, but to remember who I used to be before I started orbiting around her moods. I looked Seth dead in the eye. "Take her with you," I said. Callie's jaw dropped. "Heath, what the hell are you?" I said she's free. I repeated. That's what she wanted, right? Seth didn't move. Callie didn't either. I picked up the bag and threw it past them, out the open front door. It landed with a thud on the porch. I thought that would be the end. But then Callie laughed. Laughed. And she said, "You can't throw me out of a house that's half mine." I smiled. Because I was ready. "Check the deed," I said. "Check your emails. You signed it away when I refinanced the business loan. You didn't read the paperwork. You never do." Silence. Then panic. She looked at Seth. He looked at me. And for the first time since I met her, she looked scared. The floor creaked beneath her heels as she backed up. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just grabbed the remote, turned on the TV, and sat down. She was free. But so was I. And for the first time in years, I felt it. But of course, that was before I found out about the camera. The thing about revenge is that it never comes in one piece. You think you're going to have your big moment, drop the mic, walk away while violins play in the background. But that's not how it works. You get fragments. Small, uneven wins that almost feel like losses because they leave behind more questions than relief. I thought watching Callie and Seth freeze in the doorway was going to be my final victory. I thought kicking her out and reminding her that she signed away the deed would be the last blow. I thought wrong. Because I forgot about the damn camera. It wasn't some high-tech setup. No hidden lens behind a picture frame or baby monitor rigged like a spy movie. No. It was a cheap, motion-activated camera I installed in the garage 2 years ago after someone tried to siphon gas from my truck. I'd actually forgotten it was still on. Never thought to check it. But that night, around midnight, I was scrolling through my security app trying to distract myself when I noticed a red alert from 3 nights ago. The same night Callie said she was at her sister's. I opened the clip. There she was, walking in through the side entrance, laughing. Behind her? Not Seth. Someone else. Someone younger. Wearing my old college hoodie. They didn't go upstairs. They didn't sneak around. They made out next to the water heater. Sloppy. Desperate. Hands everywhere. Like they were in high school, and this was their only 10-minute break before curfew. I couldn't breathe. Not out of rage, something worse. Something degrading. I felt like a joke. A sitcom husband who doesn't realize the audience is laughing at him, not with him. I rewatched it. Twice. Then paused the video and zoomed in. That wasn't Seth. That wasn't anyone I recognized. He looked maybe 25. Fit. Hair like a TikTok star. I felt ancient just looking at him. She had her hands in his back pockets like they were already a thing. Like this wasn't their first time. My throat tightened. I closed the app and sat there for an hour staring at the wall, trying to figure out how many lies had stacked up before that moment. How long she'd been doing this. Who this kid was. And more importantly, why Seth? Because now I realized something wasn't adding up. Seth was too calm, too polished, too composed when he walked into our house. He wasn't some rebound. He acted like he belonged, like he was doing me a favor. That's when the seed of suspicion really started to grow. The next morning, I went to the coffee shop where Callie used to meet her branding clients. A place called Rise, with fake plants, $6 espresso, and tables made from reclaimed barnwood. She used to say it made her feel productive and creative. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Maybe someone would recognize the kid from the footage. Maybe I'd overhear her name dropped in the middle of a fake business meeting. Maybe I was just desperate to not be home. But I got more than I bargained for. I saw the barista, short, sharp eyeliner, attitude like a steel trap, watching me the moment I stepped in. She froze mid-wipe on the counter. Like she knew. She didn't smile when she handed me my drink. Instead, she said quietly, "You're Heath, right?" I blinked. She leaned in. "She told us you'd never come here. Said you were too boring for lattes." I almost dropped the cup. She glanced around and then added, "She doesn't bring Seth here. She brings the other one. The younger one. Seth's different." I asked, "Different how?" She hesitated. "Then, Seth's the boss." That's when everything inside me froze. The boss. Of what? Of her? Or the kid? Or something else entirely? I thanked her. Left. Didn't drink the coffee. The word kept echoing in my brain as I drove home. Boss. The camera didn't lie, but it didn't tell the whole truth either. Whatever Callie was mixed up in, it wasn't just cheating. It was organized. And I had just opened the front door to something bigger than heartbreak. I stayed up all night with that word echoing in my skull. Boss. What did that even mean? Was Seth her employer? Her secret investor? Her handler? Was this some twisted pyramid scheme built on yoga mats and crop tops? I kept replaying that scene in the kitchen, Seth standing there like he'd done it before. Like he wasn't nervous, or guilty, or even mildly uncomfortable being in the home of the man whose wife he was supposedly stealing. It was more than confidence. It was ownership. And then I thought of something else. Why didn't she flinch when I told her the house was mine? She had reacted, sure, but not shocked. More like annoyed. Like I'd made her life slightly more difficult, not destroyed her fantasy. And then came the real kick in the gut. I remembered something I hadn't thought about in months. For months ago, she insisted I sign over power of attorney for some business paperwork related to a lease on her second studio space. I didn't ask questions. She said the realtor needed it urgently. I was knee-deep in a shipment delay at work. I signed and handed it back. I didn't read it. That's on me. I didn't sleep. Not a wink. By 6:12 a.m., I was outside the county clerk's office with a thermos full of vending machine coffee and a headache that felt like it had claws. When the doors opened, I practically ran to the records desk and asked to pull any recent title changes, financial filings, and business licenses under her name or mine. What I found made my knees buckle. There were 3 business entities registered to my name. Only one of them I recognized, her fitness studio. The other 2? I had never heard of. One was a shell LLC. No storefront. Just a mailbox and a matching email domain hosted on a private server. The second? A media management company with ties to an out-of-state wellness brand. The name on the registration paperwork? Seth Merriman. I felt like I was reading someone else's life. I asked the clerk if I could print everything. She gave me a look that said, "This is bad," and nodded silently. I left the building with a stack of papers under my arm and a feeling in my gut that I was more than cheated on. I'd been played. When I got home, I tried to call her. No answer. I texted, "We need to talk. Now." 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Then she called. I picked up. She sounded calm. Too calm. "I figured you'd find it," she said. That sentence alone broke something in me. "You figured?" I asked. "I knew it was only a matter of time," she said. "But you weren't supposed to react like this. You were supposed to be reasonable." Reasonable? I laughed. "You used me. You signed my name onto fake companies. What the hell is this?" She sighed like I was the one being dramatic again. "Do you know how hard it is for women to get funding?" she said. "Do you know how many men expect something in return just for a loan? You were safe, Heath. You were never going to question it." I stood in the kitchen, gripping the phone so tightly I thought it might crack. "You used me as a front." Silence. Then she said the line that still makes my skin crawl. "No, I used you as a foundation." She hung up. I stood there staring at nothing. She hadn't just lied. She had studied me, built a personality profile, found my weaknesses, my insecurities, my desperate need to be needed. She didn't just cheat. She engineered a slow-motion car crash and put me in the driver's seat. But what she didn't know was this. The one thing I do better than anyone, better than loving, better than forgiving, better than fixing houses, is documenting things. And what she forgot, that I keep copies. Every paper I signed, every email forwarded, every note, every message. If she wanted to play with fire, I'd let her. Because now I had evidence, and I knew exactly where to take it. It took me exactly 48 minutes to go from shattered husband to man with a plan. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the traditional sense. I wasn't yelling or crying or punching walls. That phase was over. This wasn't grief now. This was surgical. I grabbed my keys and drove to the nearest big box store on the edge of town, the kind with flickering lights and cashiers who don't make eye contact. I walked past the TVs, the microwaves, the as-seen-on-TV gadgets, and bought a $39 burner phone with cash. No questions. No loyalty card. Back in the truck, I activated it using a prepaid SIM and set up a brand new email. No name. No photo. Just a string of meaningless numbers. Then I texted one number, a friend I hadn't spoken to in over a year. Max used to be a private investigator before he got out of the game. The kind of guy who could find out your blood type and shoe size before your coffee finished brewing. We used to work together back when I ran electrical on job sites. He owed me one. A big one. I typed one sentence. "Still owe me from Copley. Need eyes on a woman. Interested?" He responded in less than 3 minutes. Name, address, details. I sent it all. Callie's real name, her business name, her fake companies, and I attached the county filings I printed earlier. No context, just a slow drip of truth. Let Max do the rest. That was his art. After that, I took a walk through my neighborhood. I hadn't done that in years, not really. I'd become one of those people who drove 3 blocks just to pick up pizza. But now I needed air. Needed to see what was still real. It was strange how normal everything looked. Trash bins at the curb. A dad teaching his daughter how to ride a bike on the sidewalk. Neighbors watering plants. No one knew what was happening behind the beige siding of my house. They smiled at me like nothing had changed. But inside me, everything had. Back home, I went to the filing cabinet she never touched. The bottom drawer. There, beneath old tax returns and mortgage letters, was a fireproof envelope I hadn't opened in 4 years. I pulled it out and dumped the contents onto the table. Passwords, contracts, bank statements, USB drives with labeled sticky notes, even a printed copy of a restraining order from a woman I barely remembered. Someone Callie had claimed was just jealous of her success. At the time, I believed her. Now, I wasn't so sure. One USB stood out. It had a label that said, Trellis 21, don't delete. I plugged it into my laptop, heart pounding. It was a screen recording. Zoom call. Grainy. Callie was on it. So was Seth. And the younger guy from the garage footage. The call was short, 11 minutes. No one was laughing. Seth was giving instructions. Callie was nodding. The kid was silent. The phrase that made my stomach drop was this. Once the loan clears through Heath's name, transfer the second LLC immediately. We can't have any paper trail beyond July. I paused the video. Looked at the date. June 14th. 2 weeks before she told me she wanted space to rediscover herself. I hit play again, and that's when I heard it. Callie saying my name like I was a stepping stone. Heath's harmless, she said. He's just happy to be included. He won't notice. I sat there, hands trembling, eyes burning. I didn't rage. I didn't scream. I memorized the words. I created copies of that video in 3 separate cloud accounts. Printed screenshots. Transcribed the dialogue. Then I wrote one sentence on a post-it note and stuck it to my fridge. She thinks I won't notice. But I did. And she had no idea what was coming next. Because the moment I pressed send and delivered the video to Max, I started drafting the email to my lawyer. Not for divorce. Not yet. First, I wanted to freeze every single asset she thought she controlled. Let her try to be free when every account is under investigation. Let her try to walk tall when the IRS starts asking questions. This wasn't about getting even. This was about getting everything with my name off of her empire, one clean, silent move at a time. And all she'd hear for days was silence. Until I knocked on her studio door with a folder. I didn't dress like a man on a mission. I wore an old hoodie, jeans with paint on them, and boots with a cracked sole. The kind of outfit that said, ignore me. I didn't shave. I didn't try to look cool or intimidating. I just looked tired, which was perfect. Callie's fitness studio had mirrored walls and overpriced neon signs that said things like, you get what you work for, and energy is the new sexy. The windows were fogged with sweat and ego. I could hear the music before I opened the door. Something electronic, high-tempo, the kind of beat that buries shame under decibels. I walked in without knocking. She was in the middle of a class. 6 women on mats, 3 on bikes. Callie in the center, headset mic clipped to her ear, ponytail swinging. She paused mid-sentence when she saw me. Her voice caught. She recovered fast, smiled, and kept going. But I saw it. The flicker of panic. I sat on the edge of a bench by the shoe rack, not speaking, just watching. It made her nervous. She stumbled on her routine, faked a laugh, looked away too quickly. After class ended, she walked toward me with a towel around her neck and an expression that tried to be neutral. You can't be here during sessions, she said, forcing a smile for the clients still trickling out. I held up a folder. Legal documents. Business-related. You'll want to see them now. She stared at the folder like it might bite her. I'm not signing anything. You don't need to, I said. I already did. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means, I whispered, leaning in so no one else could hear. You no longer have controlling interest in anything with my name on it. Trellis, LLC. Burnbite Media. Even the building lease on this place. All frozen pending fraud review. IRS got the full packet yesterday. Your accountant should be calling, if he hasn't already. Color drained from her face. She reached for her phone instinctively. I shook my head. No point. You'll just hear what I told them. Or worse, what Max told them. That name made her blink like I'd slapped her. Max wasn't a myth. He used to be a ghost in her stories, the guy she never wanted me to talk to. Too messy, too nosy. She said he had a gambling problem, which I now realized was code for he knows too much. Why? She whispered. I almost laughed. Because you're free, remember? I stood, dropped the folder on the counter behind her. Not with a slam, just enough for it to be audible. Real. Inside are notices from both banks, tax paperwork with my statement attached, and a list of every change I've filed in the last 72 hours. I didn't do anything illegal. You'll need your own attorney to prove that. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. Good, because the man she'd manipulated was gone. The best part? I didn't yell. I didn't call her names. I didn't tell her she broke me. I let the silence say it for me. As I turned to leave, she said something strange. I didn't want it to go this way. I stopped, just for a second. You engineered it to go this way. No, Heath. I engineered it to look like it didn't. I turned. That hit different. What's that supposed to mean? But she didn't answer. She just gave me a tired smile, the kind people give when they know a secret you don't, and walked toward her office without looking back. I left, but her words wouldn't leave me. That night, my phone buzzed. Not the burner. My real phone. The one I hadn't used in days. One new voicemail. Blocked number. I played it, and I heard Seth's voice. You don't know what you've stepped into, Heath. Be careful who you trust. And don't think this ends with Callie. Click. No breathing. No background noise. No threats. Just that. Just warning. And for the first time since all this started, I realized something chilling. Maybe Callie wasn't the mastermind. Maybe she was just the front, and someone else had just stepped out from behind the curtain. I listened to the voicemail 5 times before I stopped shaking. Not because it scared me, but because it didn't. It confused me. It crawled into the back of my mind and whispered things I didn't want to hear. You don't know what you've stepped into. Be careful who you trust. Who says that to the husband of the woman they're sleeping with? I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with every document I'd printed, every screenshot, every note. There were too many things that didn't line up. The timeline, the business names, the money movement, Callie's sudden confidence, her refusal to hide. And then there was Seth, calm, poised, never flinching. It hit me sometime after 3 a.m. This wasn't an affair. It was a transition. Callie was never planning to leave me in a blaze of betrayal. She was going to replace me quietly, keep the life, keep the income, keep the identity, just swap out the man behind it. And I'd already seen the pieces of it. The burner companies, the asset rerouting, the power of attorney. But I missed the worst part. My credit. I checked the dashboard I hadn't opened in months. New cards, new business loans, multiple hard inquiries I didn't authorize. Someone had been building a duplicate version of me, piece by piece, using the name, SSN, and digital profile I handed over like a doormat for years. She wasn't just stealing money. She was preparing to inherit my life while I collapsed under the weight of paperwork, subpoenas, and IRS audits. And that meant only one thing. She wasn't working alone. So I called Max. I didn't bother with pleasantries. Dig up Seth Merriman. Deep. Everything. I want past addresses, corporate ties, aliases, all of it. Max's voice was flat. Already on it. I said, wait, what do you mean already? He exhaled. Because this isn't the first time I've heard that name. Silence on the line. You know him? I knew of him, Max said. He was flagged 3 years ago during a marriage fraud investigation in Denver. Didn't go to court. The guy disappeared before deposition started. But the woman? She ended up with $500,000 in debt and 3 LLCs under her name. One she claimed she never signed for. I felt cold all over. What happened to her? Vanished. No social posts. No change of address. Just gone. I asked the next question slowly. Do you think Callie's just another version? Max was quiet for too long. No, he said finally. I think she's better. That single sentence made my stomach flip. If Max was right, then I wasn't the victim of an impulsive affair. I was inside the blueprint of a repeatable financial scam, perfected over time. And worse, I was still active in it. I thought freezing the accounts, contacting the IRS, pulling legal documents would cripple her. But what if that wasn't failure for her? What if that was the signal to start phase 2? At 7:02 a.m., I got an email from my employer's HR department. Subject line, urgent, identity verification required. I opened it. They were asking if I had filed for a payroll change request and bank rerouting update for direct deposit. Effective immediately. I hadn't. Callie had access to that login once. Months ago. I felt it all clicking now. She didn't just want to remove me. She wanted to absorb me, leave me like an empty wrapper, discarded, drained, silent. But she'd made one mistake. She thought I'd go down quietly. That afternoon, I went to the notary office and filed a sworn affidavit of identity theft and account tampering. Max forwarded me documents from Seth's previous incident in Denver, enough to justify an investigation. Then I called my lawyer again. Change of plan, I said. No divorce yet. No. File for full legal separation with emergency injunction. I want it on record that she doesn't speak for me, sign for me, or touch a cent in my name. I want the judge to see fraud, not heartbreak. He paused. You sure you want to do this before serving her? I want her to think she's still winning. Because the best kind of revenge isn't a blow. It's a vacuum. Let her feel the floor disappearing. Let her look around one day and realize every fake company, every co-signed document, every pipeline she built with my face at the front was gone. And let her wonder when it all started to fall apart. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the microwave door. I didn't recognize myself. Good. Because neither would she. The court hearing was quicker than I expected. Callie arrived in a blazer too expensive for someone whose accounts had just been frozen. She tried to make eye contact in the hallway, but I kept my eyes on the wall behind her, a clock ticking so loudly it felt like narration. The judge granted the emergency injunction. She was officially cut off. No access to joint funds. No legal control. For the first time since we got married, I was alone in my own name. It felt clean, like finally breathing through my own lungs again. I walked out of the courthouse with a certified copy of the order and a folder under my arm. Max had included everything. The screenshots, the voice recordings, the video from the USB. I didn't need to use it in court. Not yet. But just holding it was enough. Like carrying lightning in your pocket. I thought that would be the end. But Callie wasn't done. 3 nights later, she showed up at the house. She rang the bell like she lived there. Like nothing had changed. I watched her through the window before answering. Messy bun, sweatpants, no makeup. Not the cold, curated version of her I'd grown used to. This was raw. Real. I opened the door. Didn't say a word. She stood there, lips trembling. I didn't expect you to fight back. I said nothing. I thought, you love me too much to do this. Still nothing. She started crying. Quietly. The kind of crying that doesn't ask for forgiveness. Just relief. I didn't know how to stop once it started. Seth, the companies, it spun out. It became about survival. I never thought I'd. Her voice cracked. You really cut me out. I nodded. One slow nod. No joy in it. No cruelty. Just truth. She looked around like she was searching for something. A memory, maybe, or a moment that would make this feel like less of a goodbye. I miss you, she said, almost a whisper. I finally spoke. No, Callie. You miss control. That silenced her. She stood there, barefoot on the porch, for a long time. Waiting for a hug that wasn't coming. Waiting for softness I'd run out of. Waiting for the old Heath. The doormat. The yes man. The quiet mule who carried everything. But that man was gone. Eventually, she walked back to her car. No dramatics. No slamming doors. Just silence. And that silence? That was my closure. 2 months later, I stood in the same kitchen where I once ate cold pancakes on the floor. Only now it was painted a warm sage green. The cabinets were new. The windows finally repaired. The house no longer echoed with her voice. I had my job back. My accounts. Even my credit score was slowly rising. Max had taken on a permanent consulting role helping other victims of business identity abuse. We talk weekly. I started volunteering once a week. Legal aid, helping other people read the kind of fine print I once ignored. And every now and then, I get a text from an unknown number, usually around midnight. Always short. Are you really done? I never reply. Because healing doesn't come with fireworks. It comes quietly, like peace walking into a room where chaos used to live. And that, my friend, was the last lesson she ever taught me. She said she wasn't mine. And in the end, I finally agreed. She wasn't. But neither was I. I belonged to myself again. And nothing feels better than that.